I love that. The work does not become easier, you become better.
Yeah. And that's funny that you mentioned that, because I always say we're only getting better at doing harder things, right? That's like the whole key to this. You only get better at doing harder things when you think about it. That resilience that we work on constantly is what makes this easier. It doesn't get easier. We get better.
Welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with a good friend, Rodrigo Parada. We have known each other and that was a very Brazilian way of saying your name just now.
Thank you.
We have known each other for a couple of years. We've been part of similar networking groups together, have traveled together, have been to places together. So it's so nice to have you here. You are... you come off to me as such a smart person, smart business owner. You're always doing an interesting deal in real estate. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation and diving in. I started this podcast because when I started in real estate 8 years ago, I knew nothing about real estate. And real estate has changed my life in more ways than I can count. And it has made such a massive difference in my family's financial legacy. So I thought if I could bring in guests and together we can share tips and advice and ideas to others out there that can help change and inspire change in their lives, then this is really what the purpose of the podcast is for. So welcome.
Well, thank you, Adriana, and thank you for that pronunciation on my name. I rarely hear it here in Canada, so it's a good thing to hear. So yes, my name is Rodrigo Parada. I'm a real estate investor based out of Quebec. Laval, to be quite exact, so a suburb of Montreal. And I've been investing in real estate since 2018, really focused on the multifamily space, smaller multifamily when I started, buying properties in secondary markets, tertiary markets. So always been a bit more comfortable with that. And gradually started shifting towards the bigger multifamily deals. As you mentioned, we're part of similar networking groups. So the reason why I bring that up is I realized quite fast that I was going to need mentorship and support if I wanted to get to where I wanted to go. And that's basically what pushed me into investing in myself and joining these groups, right? So, fast forward a couple of years, in 2022, I joined one of these groups. And I started investing across the country. So got exposed to real estate deals in Ontario, passively invested there. And I closed on a 38 unit in Alberta last year that we're currently optimizing. And I've set my sights on continuing to invest long distance. I'm looking at some new build deals here in Quebec. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I like anything that has to do with real estate. The only thing I haven't done yet is single family flip, actually, thinking about it. So yeah, that's a bit about what I do. Now that's about it, Adriana.
I love it. I know you're a family man as well. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, I have two daughters. They're 8 and 5, and I live with my wife here in Laval. So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I've always done things in my real estate career, always with them in mind. And I grew up in a family of boys. So having two daughters was a nice shift, but it also realigned my focus in why I was doing certain things and the way that I was doing them. So ever since, they were younger, I've always introduced my girls to what I'm doing. So whether it was going to the bank with them and then depositing the checks and the cash that we were getting from our tenants, or just being around us while we're doing some, small renovation in some of our units, in some of our earlier projects, it's important for me to expose them to what I'm doing so that not necessarily they continue what I've done, but they have a different paradigm as to what's available to them in this life.
Yeah, I love that. I find that family is such a strong why to so many of us, our kids, our parents. the people around us and being able to bring, not just financial legacy, but like financial literacy and, like you said, a different way of doing things. I was talking to my husband yesterday on a walk, and I thought, because we're in so many, or we network so much, and we're in so many of these wonderful groups, we feel like a lot of the people that we know are in real estate, but in reality, the population of people out there that are actually, understand or invest in real estate is really the minority. And it's so being able to bring that financial literacy to our kids, where they understand concepts of investing, and specifically real estate in my case, at least, and this is what we're focused on. I love that. It just opens up a new world to them that they wouldn't have access otherwise.
I think that's exactly it. It's just the idea where you're providing them more solutions. Like whatever my kids decide to do professionally in their life or study, my job is just to expose them to as many possibilities as I can, right? So we're fortunate to be in a position where we have had that exposure. We've been surrounded with people that have different levels of success, and I think that it is our duty as parents to provide that to our kids so that they have the opportunity and, to be quite honest, like the luxury of making that decision for them, So yeah, you're absolutely right.
We're very blessed and very grateful to be in this position for sure. Let's dive into real estate. So you said something as you were describing like how you got started, that you prefer secondary and tertiary markets. Tell me a little bit about why that's your preference.
That's a very good question. So it's really as simple as when we started. When I say we, is I did my first deals with my brothers and my dad. So keeping up with the family term, the family theme, sorry, and my wife. So the reason why I went into secondary and / tertiary markets is just because of affordability, like what we could afford at that point. So Quebec real estate around Montreal is expensive, not as much as your neck of the woods necessarily, but it's still expensive to get in. And I was just looking for cash flowing deals. That's what I knew. Like I started my real estate investing education with Bigger Pockets. Started listening to that podcast in 2015. Obviously, it's American, but at that time in the real estate business, a lot of people were focused on cash flow, and I was also. So looking at these markets, I figured out how to get these deals, force the appreciation into it, basically do BRRRRs, and still be able to have a healthy cash flow coming out of them. Like, mind you, this is like 2018 to 2020, 2021. So at that time, completely different world that we are in today, but it was just the ease of those deals. To be quite honest with you, now that I'm investing in Alberta, I see a lot of similarities with those types of deals over there, and focusing on secondary markets that have what I like to call the fundamentals of real estate. Like we're focusing on location, really. Like, does the town have the big banner stores? Does it have banks? Does it have a hospital, right? Is it a hub for the other smaller towns around it? And there's notion of cash flow over there that I don't see necessarily right now in my local markets. And that's really it. I'm not like, there's no secret formula behind it. It was just because it was easier for us at that time,
I so relate to that. I'm almost saying both. We started right away on secondary and tertiary markets ourselves for the same reason. And I loved it. I'm like, it actually cash flows. I can do this. I like the tenant profile of like working class, towns. Like you said, the fundamentals are there. There's, people living there, good people. They're working hard. They need a place to live. I really appreciate that. And following the easiness of it, it was a similar reason why we ended up investing in New Brunswick. It was just easier. I had been investing in Ontario for many years, and when we started investing there, I'm like, oh, there's actually easier ways to invest. Yes. How do I multiply that and sign up for that? So I can see Alberta being a similar market that provides some easiness when compared to some other provinces in Canada.
Absolutely. And another very important argument about it is when you're going into these markets and you're working with the municipality, when you're looking to do some change to uplift the environment. So you take like an existing asset that's been looking the same for like 20, 30 years, everybody knows it, and you're coming in and you're infusing new blood and you're trying to change what's currently available in that market. Well, I have a tendency to lean towards the fact that these municipalities, they want this. They're looking forward for people like us to help bring in the new life into their city, right? So all of the projects that I've done, I've always had a certain ease also with the municipal side for bringing up our projects, for adding units, for anything like that, because they're looking forward to it. Obviously, they're going to charge more taxes. That's fine. That's part of the process. But when you compare it to the bigger urban centers that we know of, where you hear about these horror stories about like delays after delays and red tapes and like you have to do this and that, kind of feels like a movie. But I feel that we don't face those challenges at that extreme in these secondary and tertiary markets. So another reason why I've enjoyed, looking into them and getting stuff done in them.
Yeah, same. There's less competition. We get to play a bigger part of whatever is going on in that town, which gives us direct access to the leadership a bit more easy to, conversations, timelines, costs. It all trickles down to making it an easier process to get it started. I also like to remind people when Donald Trump started investing in Manhattan, it was a dump. Like there was not much going on there. He needed it was rough, he needed to, and this is where he got to make his playground because he was bringing investments. And the city needed it. They needed those investments. They gave him a lot of long-term, rebates on taxes and other things because nobody else wanted to invest in Manhattan. So now you're laughing, when you look back that long ago. So reminding that when people were investing in Toronto 50 years ago, they were probably in a similar situation. So looking forward to what is the trend, where are people going to, what cities and towns are growing and have good fundamentals, and thinking long term, because real estate is a long term play.
100%. 100%. Anybody that tells you otherwise, they're either lying or they don't know what they're doing.
That's right. I agree with that. The other thing that you talked about there was investing in yourself. So again, another, theme that I relate and agree with. Obviously, we met at a networking group that was a paid networking group and a highly paid networking group. I found a really strong correlation to my pace of success and how much I'm willing to invest in myself. And really, it all comes down to that one key measure I find whenever I am willing to, hire a coach or a mentor or join a mastermind or networking group, take a course and really invest in myself. All of a sudden, there are, very intentionally, there are these spurts of growth that happen in my life, in my business, in my personal life, and self-development as well. What are your thoughts around that?
My God. I think it's essential. Like if you're really serious about the goals that you've set out for yourself, this is the way you do it. Because that just go on Instagram and look at whatever inspirational accounts you can find about business. But there's these quotes by these highly successful entrepreneurs or these writers that write about them. And the one thing that's common is just this idea of surrounding with people with a higher level of expertise than you, right? And yes, you have to pay for that. You have to pay to get access to them. But personally, the investments that I've made in myself are a fraction to what I've gotten out of it. Obviously, there's work coming from us. You have to be intentional, but it's like with everything in life. Why would you go half speed if not full speed? You have to be intentional. You're not doing anything if it's not to see it through. And the way that we achieve this level of greatness is by surrounding us with greatness. there's, like the one quote that everybody hears is you need to be in a room with smarter people than yourself if you really want to grow, like whatever variation of that quote is. But it's true. Like I've grown so much just from hearing other successful investors, because this is the difference between, a DIYer where you can do it yourself and you can have the gratification about doing it yourself and struggling through. And I always relate to my parents or my grandparents' generation as immigrants. Like they always want to do things for themselves. They want to be able to do it themselves. But I find that we are fortunate enough to live in the world that we are living in, where we can surround ourselves with people that can teach us, whether directly or indirectly, about what to do or not to do. So yeah, it's definitely an important factor out of it all. Like you have to do it if you're really serious. And initially there's like a barrier, like you're like, why should I pay for that? But you're not looking at it the right way. You're not paying for something, you're investing in yourself. You're investing in that. And yeah, it changed my life, really, to be quite honest with you. The moment that I started doing that, the moment I started investing in myself and joining these groups, my business exploded. I believe that I've become a better version of myself since then. And it's only because you're now in close relation to individuals that are achieving that level of greatness that you aspire to, right? So yeah.
100%. There is a shortcut to success, and that's people, and that's you focusing on yourself and growing yourself by being surrounded by the right people that are going to normalize success, that are going to be, ahead of you and have gone through all the things you're going through. I love that. Let's shift a little bit here. The real estate market has changed significantly since we started investing in real estate. What has been the easiest thing about real estate for you?
The easiest thing. That's a great question. So the easiest thing right now for me is a culmination of all the work that I've done up to this point. So that thing for me is lead generation. That was my biggest challenge when I started, but right now it's the easiest thing. And the reason why that is just because I don't look at it the same way. I don't have the same experience, but also I don't have access to the same resources. So as you've said, it has changed a lot, but not every opportunity is a deal, but we make those deals and we make them happen based on our level of knowledge and resources. And that's what I'm confident in saying is easiest for me now. And going back to what we were talking about just now, the networking thing, like if I'm knowledgeable in the market that I currently live in, but I have a bigger point of view on the country, I don't view the same challenges as somebody who's just investing in one market, right? Like it's the blue ocean, red ocean theorem. When you think about it, why would I make my life more tougher when I can just shift what I'm doing someplace else and have a better edge? So I think that's what's the easiest for me right now, weirdly enough.
I love it. So when you say lead generation, you mean like deal flow?
Yeah, deal flow, but also understanding that not everything is cookie cutter. Like I mentioned BRRRRs, right? Now, I think that there's a variation of BRRRR deals. If you understand MLI Select financing for existing builds, let's say, and then you apply that to the markets that actually enable you to do these deals with a lesser barrier of entry, and then Bob's your uncle. Like you can still make these deals happen. Same thing as understanding how financing works on new builds and buying on plans and having those conversations with developers or realtors that are actually doing those, right? It's again, like I wouldn't be honest with you and the audience by saying that this is something that I think is easy with the version of me 2 years ago. but it is easier today because of how I express myself, my knowledge, but also all the work that has happened, you know?
I love that. The work does not become easier, you become better.
Yeah. And that's funny that you mentioned that, because I always say we're only getting better at doing harder things, right? That's like the whole key to this. You only get better at doing harder things when you think about it. That resilience that we work on constantly is what makes this easier. It doesn't get easier. We get better.
Yes, I love that. That is so very true. I feel it in my bone. We're facing, ultimately we do continue to face like big challenges and struggles. With that, what has been the hardest thing you've had to face in real estate?
Okay, so I'll give you different examples. So if I could talk about projects, like obviously like that's shop talk, if I could say. Like we face like delays with financing, delays with closing, losing deals, not being able to get them through the finish line. I've had like legal situations with some acquisitions that I'm still dealing with. But that's, with real estate specifically, what I would say is the biggest challenge is in terms of leadership. When you're in a leadership position and you have either businesses or teams that depend on you, it's the challenge of keeping yourself, one, accountable, but also ensuring that everybody stays aligned with the goals. Everything is easy when everything goes well. But the moment that it starts going sideways is when you have to step in and you need to assume that role, that leadership position, right? I heard a great quote recently that said that optimism is a moral duty. And that resonated with me so much, because when you're in a leadership position, when things are going sour, they look to you to make sure that, hey, we're going. We keep on going. We don't stop. This is not stopping us from achieving our objectives, whatever they are, right? So that is a challenge personally, because it's the reminder that I always need to work on myself. I always need to become a better version of myself that I currently am, so that I can continue on leading these projects and make sure that we get them done.
Leadership is so key and so challenging at the end of the day. We were talking about how hard it is to make an investment ourselves. I think it's also a barrier to a lot of people to invest in teams and hiring and expanding your team. And that's because how you have to consistently show up requires a consistency, requires that you are the better version of yourself most often than not, because you are the key that's leading the team. I use the analogy of, you could have power tools in your hand, but you're the one that's still like directing, and you're still the one that's still pressing the ignition, and making sure it's running and doing its thing. So I feel like teams are very much like power tools. You can't get through it without them. But you're the source of energy that's really pouring into them and allowing them to like move and focus and know what to do next. So, and set the tone and the pace and the values. Definitely probably the most important skill that any business owner can, work on and implement.
100%. It is key. If you don't have that, or you don't realize soon enough that that's what you need to work on, you're going to have way more challenges than you're aware of, And I think that personally what ended up changing my perspective on it is obviously my professional career before doing real estate full time, working in the railroading industry and leading a team over there. But there's this man called Jocko Willing who preaches basically that everything is your fault when you're a leader. And it really is. That's the way you need to look at it. Everything is your fault. if you're in the leadership position, because by admitting that, it breaks down the barrier and you can look at yourself more objectively. Like, what do I need to do to give my team the tools to become what they need to become? And I fully believe in that. Doesn't change that it's freaking challenging, right? It's not easy, but at the end of the day, you're only going to be as good as your team, right? And it's your job to make sure that the team is what it is.
100%. I say that's probably the thing in my day-to-day, life today, that consumes most of my thoughts, and like, what do I need to improve here? How do I become a better leader? Is so top of mind for me. And it's a constant, like, how do I improve and how do I grow and scale? And there's only one of doing it, is by doing it, is by showing up and having the conversations and asking the questions. And I love it. I do have a couple more questions for you before we start to wrap up here. Last time I saw you, we talked about the fact that you were opening an MFT.
Yes.
So I'd love for you to touch base, tell the audience what is an MFT, and tell us a little about your experience of getting that opened up.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a big one. So what is an MFT? An MFT stands for a mutual fund trust, and it's an investment vehicle in Canada that enables us, the directors of the MFT, to secure debt through it with registered funds. And how that happened, I would be so happy to tell you that it was for another reason, but it was out of necessity. So we had a deal that we needed to secure registered funds against, and I had the equity on my portfolio, but because I was with other partners, our lawyers advised that wasn't necessarily the best course of action from a business standpoint and a legal standpoint. So long story short, after trying multiple other ways, that was the one that was suggested to us, and that's what we ended up doing. So we were able to secure those funds and get this deal going, and now we have this investment vehicle that I'm going to be leveraging for the deals that I'll be doing moving forward. It's an incredible opportunity from an investing standpoint, from a lending standpoint also. And I'm just extremely excited about finding the right projects that fit this model.
I love that. Where do you hope to take it?
Well, that's the tough question. I don't have a number associated with it, right? Like, it's not about the money for me. It's not about I don't think about it that way. The way I see it is, and this is more of a me thing, right? I want to be in a position that in a few years, if not next year, if I can, I want to invest in people and their passions. So this vehicle is an extension of that train of thought. If I find the right projects, the right teams that align with my partners and my values, that's what we're going to be looking for. So where do I see this going? I see us being a key component to other investors that are looking to close their deals and get them going, right? Like, if that's one thing that 2023 has taught us as real estate investors and entrepreneurs, is that the rules of the game can change fast, but it doesn't mean that the game stops from being played. So if you have different tools that can help you to keep on playing and winning, then that's what it's all about. And that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to be an integral part of bigger projects, focused on, either long-term vision into helping the housing crisis or new immigration into the country, or retrofitting and making it a bit more affordable for other retail investors like myself to get into multifamily investing. I think that's where I feel is a safe answer to your question, Adriana.
I love that. That's a beautiful mission. as investors, having the opportunity to partner with funds and, to be able to close on deals, to be able to do short-term financing or long-term financing makes a big difference. So I love that mission, understanding what real estate investors go through and being able to provide solutions on that side. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I guess my other question for you was, earlier you mentioned that you were optimizing the building that you purchased last year. What are your top secrets to optimizing a multifamily asset?
My secrets. Understanding the market that you're in. I would start with that. So let me preface that. I grew up in my real estate investing career with the Burr model, but also influenced by social media and like having nice properties. Okay, like the what I like to call the HGTV treatment. We're gonna go in, strip everything, change everything, and make it look nice so that we can take a nice picture and showcase what we've done. I think that the truth is less glamorous than that, and that's also a learning that I got from last year, is that acquisitions, renovations, making it nice, making it social media friendly is one aspect of the business, but the boring part, the operations, stabilization, like the stuff that really isn't sexy, that's the most useful. So having said that, I would say that understanding the market, your tenant profile, the product that you're going to be putting on the market after that you're done is more important at first than the actual work that's done, because over renovating a suite is a big no-go. Understanding who's going to come live there and what they're looking for is incredibly important, because it enables you to stay on budget and potentially save more, right? Like when you're dealing with projects where it's not just your capital, but you have investors, you got to make sure that you steer the right way. And the right way is always to have your finances in check and your budget in check. So not overspending for what the work that I'm doing, and also have a clear understanding of the exit and its financing. Like that, it's not a secret necessarily, but I think that it's something that we tend to not focus on as much as we should when we start these projects, because we're like, hey, okay, yeah, we're gonna get it 75%, 85% loan to value. It is what it is, and like we're gonna get this done. It doesn't work that way. Like whether or not you're going CMHC or not, they can change their rules while you're in the project and expecting a payout. You might get some delays. Interest rates might go up, might go down, changes your financing structure. Dealing with the property that we're talking about right now, on the financing side, I think that the broker that we worked with reached out to 7 or 8 lenders. Only one of them came back with a proposition. So it's not like, don't think it's going to be like all sunshine and easy. Like you gotta make sure that you plan it properly, So one thing I could say also, and it's kind of like with where we are right now in the market, like we're in March 2024, there's some different lending opportunities as real estate investors that you can benefit from. Like the MLI Select can be leveraged in different markets in different ways. And it's getting educated in that's going to make you come out on top, right? Like the affordability portion, personally, I think is something that is viable in Alberta. I don't see it viable in my market here in Quebec. Energy efficiency is amazing in Quebec and in Ontario also, I assume. But it's not something that's currently being really pushed for in Alberta. So how do we mitigate that gap and we find the right projects to benefit from it, I'll leave it at that. So understanding the variations of the market and exploiting them.
Yeah, I love that. That was the exits strategy was one of my biggest learnings last year, because we did get caught on, we thought we had a solid exit strategy on a project and the rules got changed. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, okay, that's not what we signed up for here originally. And it doesn't mean the project is not solid, and it doesn't mean that things haven't been going well. It just means that our exit strategy got changed. And what I realized looking back, and my business partner and I have agreed on this, our biggest learning was we should have been talking about the exit strategy way more often than we did. We talked about it in the beginning and thought, we had a solid exit strategy here and never expected it to change. So we should have been really and that's something we've implemented new, is having monthly financial meetings where we're taking a look at everything that's going on. We're taking a look at exit strategy, and we're staying on top of the exit strategy from day one, instead of just waiting for until the end and say, okay, now let's go, look at that exit strategy. We've been like, hey, let's look at it and let's touch base with the lender and let's make sure everything is still moving along well. And let's make sure, even though we're a year out, that the conversation is going the right direction. We're meeting certain targets and everything is still, So, like you said, there's a lot of unsexy things that happen in the background that, I tell people, I'm like, it's hard to create social media content because what am I going to do? Take pictures of me sitting at my desk all day? I don't know. That's how sexy is that? That's really literally most of what I do is I sit on my desk, and I'm emailing and in meetings and conversations with people, with lenders and lawyers and appraisers and partners and construction teams. And that's really the day-to-day of what real estate investors do. So I agree with you that this component in stabilizing is the most important part of acquisition. Is so obviously the start of it all, and you need to make sure that that's, from that standpoint, you already have a solid of information as you possibly can. But it's the day-to-day operations that's going to make sure that you're fulfilling the dream and the promises of the acquisition.
100%. And the experience that we gather as we keep on doing this is what enables us to go from a reactive position in these cases to a more proactive, right? And I really enjoy what you just said right now, because it's so true. Like, the moment that you start thinking about potential things that can happen or will happen, and you take a lead on them, that's when you know that you're there, or you're getting there, right? Because we have a tendency when we first start, when it's our first project, that we react to what's being thrown at us. But it's better to be proactive and get ahead of the curve, if I can put it that way.
And like you said, that shows experience. I don't know that I would have known to do that until I had to learn to do that. I'm like, okay, so this is really what leveling up is in my mind, is really learning from all of it that you're going through, the time that you're putting in, the intentionality that you're putting in to doing better and better. Because now how we operate and the fact that we can implement so much into our day-to-day operations allows us to do even better acquisitions.
Absolutely.
Because we know what's on the other side.
100%. Well said, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you, Rodrigo. This is so much fun. Time flew by. So to me, usually that means we need to get you back on sometime soon. Looking forward to seeing you again soon.
Likewise. And have a great March break. And I'm looking forward to be back here.
Thank you. Before you go, where can people find you?
So on Instagram, Rodrigo_@Astra is my handle. If not, on Facebook, Rodrigo Parada. Just send me a DM. Let's connect. Let's chat. As we pointed out, I am the one who wants to provide the solutions to real estate investors like myself. So let's see how I can help.
Amazing. Make sure to reach out to Rodrigo. It was such a pleasure again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for the opportunity, Adriana. Bye.